We start with the Israel-Hamas war. Defence Minister Yoav Gallant has said that Israel had no intention of staying permanently in the Gaza Strip. He said that Israel is also open to discussing alternatives about who would control the territory, that is, as long as the group was not hostile towards Israel. Gallant added that Israel was open to possibly reaching an agreement with Hezbollah in Lebanon, that is, on the condition that any agreement included a safe zone along their border. The United States has said that it is concerned about reports that Israel used US-supplied white phosphorus munitions. Earlier, a report said that Israel used the munitions in an October attack in southern Lebanon. The report added that the attack injured 9 people. Meanwhile, Israel has defended its position on the use of white phosphorus. A military spokesperson said that Israel's army was operating, quote-unquote, legally and according to international law. The usage of white phosphorus is restricted under international humanitarian law. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell has said that the bloc will put forward a proposal. It will seek to impose sanctions on extremist Israeli settlers in the occupied West Bank who committed acts of violence against Palestinians in the region. Violence by Israeli settlers against Palestinians in the West Bank has reportedly increased since the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel. In the US, a group of protesters were escorted out of Capitol Hill yesterday. They were demanding a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war. The protesters gathered in the Hart Senate office building on Capitol Hill, waving Palestinian flags. Capitol Police used zip ties to restrain the protesters and carried them away. More than 18,000 people have reportedly died in Gaza since the war broke out. In other political news, China's President Xi Jinping has started a 2-day visit to Vietnam. His visit comes 3 months after US President Joe Biden traveled to Hanoi. During the trip, Xi aims to upgrade ties with Vietnam. This comes as major countries vie for influence in the Southeast Asian nation. However, China and Vietnam have been at odds over boundaries in the South China Sea. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak will face the biggest parliamentary test of his premiership today. UK lawmakers are due to vote on his divisive migration legislation that plans to send asylum seekers to live in the African nation of Rwanda. The legislation has deeply divided his party. Some politicians argue that the legislation does not go far enough to control immigration. Meanwhile, others are worried about Britain breaching its human rights obligations. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said that he hoped to still count on the United States for military assistance. He said this during his visit to Washington. His comments come as funds for American assistance to Ukraine are rapidly receding. Biden's administration has warned Congress that a failure to renew military assistance to Ukraine could tip the war in Russia's favor. During his visit to the US, Zelensky also met the International Monetary Fund chief, Kristalina Georgieva. The IMF approved a $900 million disbursement for Ukraine's $15.6 billion loan program. Georgieva congratulated Zelensky on Ukraine's positive economic growth amid the war and pledged continued support for the country. In Russia, opposition politician Alexei Navalny has vanished. His allies say that he has been removed from the penal colony where he was being held, and his current whereabouts are not known. Navalny had been imprisoned since the middle of last year. The disappearance comes as Navalny aides have been preparing for his expected transfer to a special regime colony. It's the harshest grade prison in Russia. Poland's parliament has backed Donald Tusk to become prime minister, ending 8 years of nationalist control of the parliament. His election paves the way for a new pro-EU government. The incoming administration will be sworn in at the presidential palace tomorrow. In October, his party came first in the election and got the first shot at forming a government. However, it lacked the necessary majority, and all other parties had initially ruled out working with Tusk. A gunman killed 2 people and wounded a third in the Swiss alpine town of Sion. Officials said they have arrested a suspect. Several shots were fired in 2 parts of the town. The victims were a 34-year-old woman and a 41-year-old man who lived in the area. A building partially collapsed in the Bronx in New York City yesterday. Scores of first responders were sifting through debris to ensure all survivors were accounted for. The 6-story building was used for business and residential purposes. In climate news, the draft of a potential climate deal at the United Nations COP28 summit in Dubai omits the phasing out of the use of fossil fuels, something that has been demanded by over 100 countries. According to reports, the host nation, the UAE, has come under pressure from Saudi Arabia, the de facto leader of OPEC, to drop any mention of ditching fossil fuels. The negotiations dragged into the early hours of Tuesday as the UAE drew fire from Western countries and environmentalists over the draft deal. Some representatives of small island states have expressed anger and rejected the current COP28 draft deal for not including clear language on fossil fuel phase-out. Samoa's representative said, and I quote, "We will not sign our death certificates." A group of countries, including the US, UK, Australia, Japan, and Canada, said they won't be co-signatories on a deal against small island nations. As the COP28 summit officially concludes, US climate envoy John Kerry said, and I quote, "This was the last COP that we will have a chance to be able to keep 1.5 degrees alive. This is it." The landmark 2015 Paris Agreement set the target of limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius from pre-industrial levels in order to avoid the worst effects of climate change. Kerry added, "This is a war for survival." The COP28 Climate Summit in Dubai also approved a proposal to hold the next iteration of the annual event in the nation of Azerbaijan. The country won the support of Eastern European nations after months of deadlock and after it reached an agreement with neighbor and adversary Armenia that it would not veto the move. According to an assessment by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, nearly a quarter of the world's freshwater fish are at the risk of extinction. It lists global warming, overfishing, and pollution as reasons. The IUCN Red List assessment has found that nearly a fifth of all threatened freshwater species are affected by climate change. A stark report by the UK Health Security Agency says that the climate crisis could cause up to 10,000 extra deaths in the UK every year by 2050. It says this is a result of extreme heat that brings a host of tropical diseases. The worst-case scenario would see average temperatures rise by 4.3 degrees Celsius, bringing an estimated 12-fold rise in heat-related deaths by 2070. It adds that deaths could increase by 1.5 times in just the 2030s. Residents in Australia's northeast braced for heavy rain and damaging winds from tropical storm Jasper. The cyclone is expected to make landfall in 24 hours. Authorities set up evacuation centers and deployed additional emergency crews. Jasper, located about 250 kilometers off the far north coast of Queensland, is forecast to intensify into a Category 2 storm. On to business and tech news. Zara has pulled an advertisement from the front page of its website and app. This was after it prompted calls by some pro-Palestine activists for a boycott of the fashion retailer. The ad showed mannequins with missing limbs and statues wrapped in white. Meanwhile, Interdex, the owner of Zara, said that the change was part of its normal procedure of refreshing content. Fast fashion firm Shein has reportedly held talks with the London Stock Exchange. This is about the possibility of a public listing in the United Kingdom. Last week, Shein's chairman Donald Tang met executives from the LSE and other stakeholders in the UK economy. Hasbro has said it would cut another 900 jobs globally amid weaker sales. As of yesterday, it had already eliminated 800 of these positions. However, it did not give details on which department or positions the layoffs affected. The move comes nearly a year after the toy maker announced it would reduce 15% of its workforce. In January, Hasbro said it would cut about 1,000 full-time positions. A new survey shows that British businesses are delaying making new investments in China. This comes amid the Asian country's stuttering economic recovery. 60% of British firms feel that a slowing Chinese economy presents a bigger challenge to their operations. Over half the companies surveyed said geopolitics was also making it harder to operate in China. Meanwhile, 43% of the firms are struggling with regulatory issues. Australia's central bank is considering a spate of new regulation. This is for payment systems eyeing to open mobile wallets in the country. The Australian government is greatly expanding the central bank's regulatory power over the payment system, particularly for mobile wallet services offered by the likes of Apple and Google. The central bank governor has said that the powers should be in place sometime next year. New York State Governor Kathy Hochul has announced a $10 billion partnership with tech firms. This is to make New York, quote-unquote, the semiconductor capital of the world. New York State will establish a next-generation semiconductor research and development center that is alongside companies like IBM, Micron, Applied Materials, and Tokyo Electron. Walt Disney and India's Reliance Industries are finalizing the details of a deal to reportedly merge their Indian media operations. A newly formed unit of Reliance's Viacom 18 will likely absorb Disney's Star India. The agreement will possibly be announced in January. Netflix was down for thousands of American users on Monday evening. This is according to outage tracking website Down Detector. Down Detector showed about 17,000 reports of outages. It is now back up for most users in the region. Netflix said it was facing unexpected technical issues for some members. Epic Games, the maker of the popular video game Fortnite, has won a US court battle against Google. This is according to Epic's chief executive Tim Sweeney. A jury decided that the search giant operated an illegal monopoly. Google has said it will challenge the outcome. In 2020, Epic Games sued Google, accusing it of unlawfully making its App Store dominant over rivals. Microsoft has struck a deal with America's AFL-CIO union. The US software giant has agreed to remain neutral over unions, encouraging workers to become members. This opens the doors for Microsoft employees to unionize. The two sides said they will also work together on the future of artificial intelligence. Moving to sports, let's start with cricket. India will play South Africa in the second T20 match later today. This will be the second game in an ongoing three-match T20 series. Neither of the teams have made any changes to their squads. The first contest was washed out due to rain. Australian batter Travis Head has been voted the ICC Player of the Month for November. Head played a major role in clinching the ODI World Cup for Australia last month. He scored 62 runs in the final against India and 137 runs in the semi-final against South Africa. This is the first time that Head has won the title of ICC Player of the Month. Moving to football, 1 in 5 players received abuse on social media at this year's Women's World Cup. This is according to a report by FIFA. The study says that women players were subject to discrimination, abuse and even threats. The findings reveal that 152 players were targeted on social media. The Turkish Football League has been suspended indefinitely. This was after the 1-1 draw between Turkish club Ankaragücü and their rival Rizespor. In the 97th minute, Rizespor scored the equalizer. Then the fans and head coach of Ankaragücü stormed the field. The head coach punched the referee in the face, while some fans reportedly kicked him. Even Turkey's president Recep Tayyip Erdogan took to social media to calm tensions. Lionel Messi's Inter Miami will play Cristiano Ronaldo's Al Nassr next year. The two teams will face each other on the 1st of February. The highly anticipated match will be played in Saudi Arabia's capital, Riyadh. This will be the 37th time that legends Messi and Ronaldo will play against each other. Nigerian striker Victor Osimhen won the African Footballer of the Year award last night. He beat Egypt's Mo Salah and Morocco's Achraf Hakimi to win the prize. Osimhen plays for the Italian club Napoli. He scored 26 goals to help Napoli top the Italian league last season. Kenya's Faith Kipyegon and 5 others were named the World Athlete of the Year yesterday. The list included America's 100-meter sprinter Noah Lyles. Kenya's Kelvin Kiptum also won the prize in the out-of-stadia category. The other awardees included Venezuela's Yulimar Rojas, Sweden's Mondo Duplantis, and Ethiopia's Tigist Assefa. All athletes were awarded during a ceremony in Monaco. In beach tennis, Brazil and Italy shared the World Cup trophy after rainfall halted the final match. The tournament was held in the beach town of São Sebastião in Brazil. At least 16 nations participated in the World Cup. On the final day, captains of Brazil and Italy agreed to share the trophy due to torrential rain. This was the first time in history that the beach tennis World Cup was shared by 2 teams. Construction activity at the surfing venue for the 2024 Paris Olympics has been halted. This was after a reef was damaged due to the installation of an aluminium tower. Surfing events will be held in Tahiti on the island of French Polynesia in the Pacific Ocean. Tahiti is tens of thousands of kilometers away from Paris, but is part of French territory. In entertainment news, Greta Gerwig's Barbie dominated the Golden Globe Award nominations with 9 nods, including the Best Picture Musical or Comedy, as well as acting nominations for Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. It was closely followed by its release date and meme companion, Oppenheimer, which scored 8 nominations including Best Picture Drama and for actors Cillian Murphy, Robert Downey Jr. and Emily Blunt. Willy Wonka's chocolate factory made its way to the streets of Los Angeles with giant chocolate bars and everlasting gobstoppers for the premiere of the highly anticipated prequel. The Roald Dahl character is played by Timothée Chalamet, who says he channeled Charlie Chaplin and Kermit the Frog when preparing for the role. The film also stars Hugh Grant and Olivia Colman, among others, and it premieres in theaters on December 15th. Hollywood actor Zac Efron was honored in Los Angeles with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Efron, who rose to fame after the High School Musical film series, paid tribute to Friends star Matthew Perry during the ceremony. Efron worked with the late Friends star in 2009 for the film 17 Again. Jonathan Majors' driver took to the stand for the actor's ongoing misdemeanor assault trial. Majors is accused of assaulting his former partner, Grace Jabari. The driver, speaking to the jury through an Urdu interpreter, was the only witness beyond the former couple to the alleged incident. Referring to interactions between Majors and Jabari that night, the driver said Majors was not doing anything, and then of Jabari he said, and I quote, "She was doing everything." The new stars of Doctor Who came out to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the much-loved hit sci-fi TV show. Ncuti Gatwa, the new time-traveling Doctor and the 15th incarnation of the character, was joined by companion Ruby Sunday, played by Millie Gibson, for an event in central London. Doctor Who returns to British television screens for a special episode on Christmas Day. Braving rainy weather, fans of K-pop supergroup BTS gathered in South Korea's capital Seoul as band members RM and V start their military service. BTS fans got together at a band-themed cafe in Seoul and showed support to their idols. The cafe was decorated with BTS photos, merchandise, and had a banner that read, "We wait for 2025. Two more members, Jimin and Jungkook, will also start their military service today. Singer Bruno Mars isn't done with Las Vegas yet. The 24K Magic singer has added 5 new dates in the month of February to his ongoing residency at Dolby Live at Park MGM. Mars was set to wrap up his residency in August, but then he added 5 additional sold-out shows in December. The popular short-form video app TikTok hosted its inaugural live music festival, TikTok in the Mix, in Mesa, Arizona. The festival had A-list performers including Cardi B, Offset, and Peso Pluma. TikTok's festival aimed to bridge the gap between emerging talents from its Elevate program and A-list performers. TikTok users were also able to join live from around the world using the app. Pop star Taylor Swift has donated $1 million to the Tennessee Emergency Response Fund. This after devastating storms ripped through multiple counties in the area, leaving at least 6 dead, including 2 children. 13 tornadoes had touched down in Tennessee over the weekend. Singer Kiara and her quarterback husband Russell Wilson welcomed a new addition to their family. The couple announced the birth of daughter Amora Princess Wilson, their 4th baby. Just hours prior to the announcement, Kiara posed with her kids at a Denver Broncos game against the Los Angeles Chargers.